our speaker. And he goes by the motto of life is a journey, not a destination. And I've been thinking a lot about that. He grew up, of course, on Division Street, went to Roosevelt High School, was sent out of the high school, but eventually came back and graduated there. And he recently talked to the students at the university and gave them a pep talk and told them they can succeed in whatever they want. They have the power and they have the means if they want. He is a lawyer, and he has taught at UCLA and a judge, and he's an author, and the book is right here. And remember, Hanukkah's coming. It's a good time to buy your gifts early. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Kenneth Green.
Thank you, Arlene. Am Yisrael Chai. Before I begin the program, I would like to introduce my wonderful publicist, Dorothy Weinberg, and her husband, Bert. And I had a really nice surprise here because about 15 minutes ago, a man walked in that door with his wife, and he's on the cover of my book, and he was the president of my club, Jerry Cohen, and Yulene. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm an attorney. I live in Los Angeles. I grew up in Chicago. Is there anyone here that grew up in the Humboldt Park area? Oh my God. Division Street? What?
2634 Western Vista Boulevard. I grew up on the other side of the park.
You were rich.
Oh, I My lady had a grocery store over here.
What was the name of it?
It was on the corner of Evergreen and Coleman.
Oh.
It was a Centrella grocery store. There were grocery stores. My uncle had one on St. Louis and Birch.
Still there.
Well,
I don't know. I haven't been there.
I grew up in Logan Square, which was...
You were
Right
rich.
there, yes.
Well, yes, sir.
What grammar school did you go to?
Von Humboldt.
Von Humboldt.
You went to Logan?
Well,
I did.
I did too.
I'm gonna bring back some memories for you that you are going to get emotional about.
I'm sure.
I decided to write the book after my mother died. I was looking through her belongings, and I came across old scrapbooks, memorabilia, newspaper articles, and I was shocked to discover how many great Jewish men lived on Division Street. Unbelievable list of people. Their parents came from Eastern Europe with no money and no education. Let me tell you some of these names that's going to blow you away. Barney Ross, one of the greatest Jewish boxers that ever lived. 3-time world champion and a war hero in World War II. Lived blocks from where I lived. Saul Bellow, prolific author, Pulitzer Prize winner. He lived blocks from where I lived. Studs Terkel, Pulitzer Prize winning author. These are all Jews who parents came with nothing. Art Patak, the great crime reporter, won a Pulitzer Prize. Benny Goodman. Benny Goodman came from Division Street, a great musician. There was a little deli, if you remember, on Division and Spalding in a basement. Itzkowitz. Oh, you're good. So one of the people who owned it was a man named Sherman Block. And he moved to California, and he became the sheriff of Los Angeles County, one of the most powerful politicians in the state of California. Are you impressed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Michael Todd, married to Elizabeth Taylor, the producer. Jackie Leonard, the comedian. My parents knew him as Fats Levinsky. Fats Levinsky. Carl Foreman, producer. Ben Hecht, famous director, all from Division Street. Jules Stein, established the Jules Stein Eye Clinic at UCLA. Mickey Rotner, the great basketball player. He's in the Jewish Hall of Fame.
Just died.
He died?
Died.
Yeah. Just died.
Oliver Schulman. So I decided I was going to write a book, and I wanted to pay tribute to these great people. And I also grew up with men who came from very humble beginnings. Every one of them became a big success. Some of them came from extreme poverty. Let me just give you a thumbnail profile. I had one friend, Zaidman, who you know, grew up without a father. He lived with his mother and his sister in a one-bedroom apartment. His mother made minimum wage, and he became a very well-known CPA. He's represented the governor of New York and the mayor of Chicago. Another guy, Starkman, grew up without a father. He lived with his sweet mother, Sally, in a one-bedroom apartment. She worked in a factory, minimum wage. They were so poor, they took in boarders, and the boarders lived in the living room. He's a rich guy now. He owns Mustard's Last Stand by the Northwestern University. He's an entrepreneur. Al Ackerman, one of the 5 best criminal lawyers in Chicago. He's argued before the United States Supreme Court. Some of his briefs have made new law. He's a member of super lawyers. Only 2% of the lawyers in the country belong to that esteemed group. They're nominated by their peers. Al Becker, he was an orphan at 16. His mother died when he was a little boy. His father died when he was 16. They lived in a tiny apartment on Division Street in Rockwell. And he is one of the most prominent attorneys in Chicago. Jerry Blumenthal, he lived above a candy store. He produced one of the best documentaries ever called Hoop Dreams. Some of you may have seen it. And the list goes on and on. And so I decided, I was so impressed by this, that I want to write a book, pay tribute to the men before me, the men I grew up with, and that's what I did. Now, I was trying to figure out what there is about this neighborhood that produces such greatness. And I was thinking and thinking like Aristotle, and I finally came up with the answer. Every one of us drank chocolate phosphates. There was still another reason that I wrote the book. It was my hope that I can inspire children who lack self-esteem, because I was thrown out of high school. This is a shanda, because I'm a Jew. I hated school. I don't know why. My parents stressed education, and when the teachers talked to me, I saw their lips move. I didn't hear a word. Jerry did okay. He was a scholar. So after a while, I kept playing hooky, and I got thrown out. And of course, I was humiliated and embarrassed for what I did to my mother and father. So I lived in Humboldt Park, and my permit was revoked at Roosevelt, and I had to go to Thule. You went to Thule. It was a kind of a tough school. There weren't as many Jews, of course, as there were in Roosevelt. Maybe when you went. My mother went there too. So I go to Thule, and after about 4 months, I called the principal at Roosevelt, and I said, please take me back, I'll do better. So he said, I'll take you back, but you have to show me that you could get a B average, stop playing hooky, no tardies. I did all of that, he took me back. My grades were so bad that out of 187 kids, I was 186. This is now a double shanda. And then it took me an extra half a year to graduate from high school because I wouldn't go to summer school. I used to drive my father's 48 Oldsmobile to Lane Tech to go to summer school, and then I'd make a U-turn and come home. So I was heading for nowhere. And then my best friend, Donnie Solomon, who you know, came to me and he said, listen, you and I, we're never going to college.